Dead Art Studios painting chat. Back again with a 30 by 40 centimetre painting on birch panel. It's acrylic paint. It's a kind of abstract landscape. I've done a bit more since last time I've seen you, and I've done some scratching away, added a bit of black and used my fingers to paint in some nice more solid colours. Before we were using sort of very watery thin layers, and now I'm putting some thicker stuff on there. And today we're going to chat about this book I've been reading, Life with Picasso by Francoise, I think that's my best pronunciation, Gilot. And she was one of Picasso's many partners in life. She had 2 children with him and spent 10 years with him, and she met him when she was 21 and he was in his 60s. So even back then, a bit of an unusual relationship. And she described her relationship with Picasso in the beginning as a catastrophe that she didn't want to avoid when talking to her friend who told her that she really should be avoiding that kind of thing. So anyway, let's get painting first, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what I thought about the book as we go on. So if we look at the top here, in the top third where this sort of sky is, I've got this line where the sort of grassy knoll hill meets the sky itself, and I think what I want to do is put some dark blue along that with my fingers just to make it like give it a bit more depth. So I think ultramarine will be a bit too sort of blue and, I don't know, cool. Is it cool? I don't know. It's something almost into the sort of heading off into the violets, and yeah, it's a bit too off on the hue for me. So I think what I'm going to do is add a bit of primary cyan to it with that, and then it should have the darkness of the ultramarine and mix in with the primary cyan, which is this sort of nicer, richer colour. Not necessarily nicer, but I actually do prefer the cyan. As you can see, nearly totally used it up. Right, oh, loads came out. Right, so I've got those there, and I'll just mix them up with this little palette knife and get the colour, and then I'll apply that with my finger, I think. So, the book, should you read it? Yes, I would say. Whether you like Picasso or not. And I like certain aspects. The things I like about Picasso and what I'm more interested in is his vast amount of techniques that he used, his ridiculous amount of productivity. He produced probably more art than any other artist I can think of. And yeah, like the different styles and things he did. So like pottery, lithography, sculpture, painting. He was just on everything. And he definitely was Picasso and had Picasso's style and sort of owned that area. And he also had many stages in life, like his blue period, which was more conventional in terms of the structure of the paintings and how they looked, but kind of in blue. And then obviously Cubism that he invented with the help of some other artists in his sort of starving artist community at the time. And then he became very successful. And that's when he met Francoise Gilot when he was in his 60s. He was already very sort of rich and famous, and had sort of exhibitions in Paris and things like that. So, and Francoise knew this. She knew she was getting involved with a famous person, a figurehead, and she knew that she'd be part of public figure life. But she wanted to be at the time, and was, a painter, and defied her father. Just streaking this blue in here. Defied her father, who wanted her to be like a lawyer or a doctor. Defied him and went and lived with Picasso, and sort of fulfilled her dream of being a painter as well. And she's definitely a recognised painter in her own right, and there's even some evidence that Picasso may well have borrowed or basically stolen some of her techniques and ways of painting and sort of aesthetics as well. But the book is very interesting, but not really because it's about Picasso, more because I think it shines about how impressive Francoise herself is, how incredibly intelligent, well-educated she was, how well she writes the book, her amazing memory to be able to recount the stories. And both Picasso and Francoise' love of art and painting, that's what really shines through. The amount of detail she goes into how Picasso was making his lithography and her art as well. And I guess at the time she was just more a painter and didn't have the body of work that Picasso had. And she definitely kind of, if at the end not worship Picasso, definitely was like blown away by how productive he was and how sort of many different techniques he used and altered for his own sort of needs. And the amount of detail that she goes into how different pieces he made was produced and things like that is quite amazing. And it just makes you realise the commitment that artists have back in those days. And like a lot of people don't like Picasso, A, maybe for his art, but B, certainly for his personality and the way he treated basically everybody around him. If you read the book, he was certainly massively sort of myopic and egotistical, and he's got a bad press, but he's also definitely was a genius. But I don't think, like, if you want to read the book, I don't think you need to have too much of a point of view on that to get something out of it if you're interested in painting and art and how art's made and the creative process and thought. And that comes from Francoise more than it comes from Picasso in this book. I've not quite finished it yet. I'm at the end, and it's no secret that she was one of the women that, I think, basically the only one that left Picasso rather than the other way around. I think he was having numerous affairs at the time that he was with her, especially towards the end. And she doesn't really mention that in loads of detail, but definitely mentions at the end when their sort of relationship is falling apart, a little bit about that. And she definitely was in love with him as well. And they were in love for a long time. And it is a bit of a taboo relationship, isn't it? And even in those times, that massive age gap was like, people were like a bit surprised. But then I think also in sort of like post-war France, like the sort of bourgeois, even though he claimed he was a communist, were the sort of, people who are going around doing art, wealthy, living life, had a car, driving it around at 90 miles an hour, going to bullfights and things like that. They definitely led a wild lifestyle. And I think it kind of fitted in with that, really. I think you should, if you're interested in art and painting, check it out. And Francoise herself is very, very, like I say, very intelligent person, and died relatively recently, like only a couple of years ago. And after I've read this, there's relatively recent interviews on YouTube that she did, but I've been saving those for when the book's finished, and then I'll go and watch those, because I just don't want to like get anything from the TV that I might get from the book first. Now, I'm just getting this last bit of paint on up here, and it's quite crude how sort of dark that's gone on. But I think what I'm going to do is find my blade and try and scratch over and take a bit of it off and go back to the layers underneath and try and sort of blend it a bit that way. And then I can always come in later with sort of more watery layers and blend into the darkness that way as well. There we go. Get that up there. And let's go up as well and try and pull up to get a bit of a blend. Like that. Like that. Oh, we get some blue going into the grass as well. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's making a sort of edgy look, like there's little tufts and tussocks in there. So yeah, it's took me about a year to read that book, because I'm such a busy bee in terms of always trying to do lots of different hobbies and things around the house, like fixing the house up and stuff, that I don't get a lot of time for reading. And I've nearly finished it. I've kept on with it. And for me, that's some of these things. I do knitting as well, but like reading and knitting and stuff, it's about doing things over the long term, but not just giving up as well, because it'd be really easy give up and just forget about it. But I have been sort of picking it up periodically and reading it. And I have enjoyed just reading a real book as well, instead of off a screen. That's been good. And it is a sort of period of history I would have loved to have been around. Just trying to scratch my watch there with a razor blade. That's not a good idea. It is a period I would have loved to have been around myself. And for that reason, it really does sort of like give me an idea of what was going on. And the other cool thing is you can use the internet, sort of Google search the paintings that she's talking about and the pieces of art and the sculptures and look at them, or the places that they are. And when I used to read a lot in my early 20s, you couldn't do that. You didn't have a phone next to you just to reference every single thing that you were unsure about, you know. Everything from a dictionary right up to locations and artworks and things like that. So it's pretty cool to be able to do it like that as well, and get a picture of what was actually being made as well. And yeah, the commitment to the artistic process is really impressive in both of them, and the other artists and poets and writers that she talks about. They had a big social circle, and it's interesting how they talk about they used to go around calling on people. You know, they didn't send a message to say, shall I come round? They used to just like go and find people, knock on the doors and stuff, and travel around and meet up. Brings back a lot of memories of a different kind of life, where now you're sort of more likely just to use WhatsApp, aren't you? Right, let's pause a minute. It's definitely darker. The line here for me is too harsh, so I would like to blend that in a bit. And I think the way to do that might be with some watery paint, but I think I'll do that when this has dried off a bit at another point. So another thing I wanted to do, I've got blue fingers, so I've got to be careful, because up here we've got this sort of, that's like my light source, and even though it's not really affecting the shadows of the paint or anything, so it's not like really that kind of painting, I did think about trying to put in some cadmium yellow in there, just around the back there to give a sort of sunlight effect. I mean, every time I do something on this, it's risky. Like that blue was a bit risky, and I'm not sure it's made it any better, but we can work around that and sort of blend it in more. And that's what you have to do, isn't it? You make a decision, you try it, it either works or it doesn't. I had some, last session was good with these bits of cliff work I did and the more definition in the water. And then I kind of like these orange drips, but maybe they were a bit too strong, but I think I might partner those up with some red. So everything you decide to do is like a gamble, isn't it? And sometimes it doesn't work. But anyway, so I think we should try the yellow. I'm doing a daytime paint and chat, and it's become really obvious to me that I'm far more manic in the day when I'm talking than I am in the evenings. It's a much calmer pace in the evening, so that's interesting as well. I do remember last time I did some daytime paint and chats that I was more manic as well. I got a little bit of yellow paint, and I think I'm just going to put it there and there with a finger, and then try not to get the blue in. Just blend it into that whitey blue. Right, what do we think? Don't know. I think a little bit of white on top of it while it's sort of vaguely wet. It's going to dry very quick. So let's get some, I'll use this one over here. Get some white, and then just a little smidge. Blend it in. We can always put a bit more yellow on if we want. Just blend that out to there a bit. That's not horrendous, dare I say. Let's put a bit more white on this bit and blend this in a bit. Alright, let's have a look. And I do want some more definition, but I also want it to be subtle as well, so I've got to be careful. And sort of not go too over the top. Right, where's my razor blade? Let's see. And let's put some of that blue that was left on it onto there. Let's blend that in a bit as well. Also, there's a little bit of photography in this, but just look at the cover. I love it. The photography with the 3 characters. I did find out who that was, but I've forgotten. And then Picasso holding the umbrella over Francoise. And her smile. And look at these really cool, this cool necklace she's got on with the big beach stones. And the hat. And they're on the south coast of France somewhere. Yeah, just amazing, beautiful black and white photography, film, you know. It's just got such a cool look and vibe to it that, yeah, I'm definitely going to do some more exploring around that period. And then it might have a look, I do photography, having a look at that kind of photography as well and try and take some inspiration from that. Let's just smear some white into this. There's a bit of a bump there, let's pull that off. Blend that in. How's that looking? Maybe just lick my finger there. Get a bit of watery consistency. Yeah, I think might be alright. The thing I'm doing is trying to use paint, but I don't want to destroy me painting just for the sake of some cheap Liquitex paint anyway. So let's pause again. Was the yellow successful? Kind of, but I did want maybe a bit of a more sharper bit in it. Just apply it direct like that. Got a brush, give it a lick, and just sort of dab it in. Yes, not bad at all. Very nice. Now just looking up here, I think I want some ultramarine coming out of the back of that. This blue here has that white up there as well. Let's find my blade and try and see if we can scratch that white off. There we go. Yes, this ultramarine area up here is a bit faint, so I do want to improve that as well. Doesn't matter about washing the brush so much because there's not much yellow on it. Let's blend that up now with the finger. And in all directions, try to affect it and then scrape as well. Have a look then. Have I got a clean finger left? Blend it out there. And obviously, don't lick paint and all that, but I'm allowed to do what I want because it's my life, so that's what I'm going to do. But it is probably not the most sensible approach to painting. And definitely, historically, getting paint in your mouth is going to do some severe damage. But a lot of these now are actually pretty safe, I think. Just says it might cause an allergic reaction, you know. Not had one yet. So, I don't know what to say. I think it's too harsh. I want a bit of tissue and a bit of water. And I'm going to blend it in a bit, if I can, with some wetness. So I'll head over to the tap. Just a little smidgeroon of water. And down we go. Let's have a look. Pushing like that. And so a lot of the blue is sort of headed into any scratches that are onto the painting. I don't mind that. That's not so bad. I would like to have a cleaner edge there. Like that. But I do not like this down here. Let's see. It's probably quite dry now, but let's see if we can lift it. The camera's going to be all over the shop, but you know. Let's see if we can blend it in a bit more. Probably left it a bit late. No, it is blending a bit. This was me. Nice. Scratching back, yes, I do quite like. So I'm getting rid of this top line here, and then it is leaving a sort of darker area at the back. And then let's use the wetness again to try and smooth that in a bit more. Very nice. Right. While we're here, I've got this nice edge here that I was getting scratching back, and I was getting the highlights from underneath. So let's just do a little bit more on that and see if I can bring some more colours out in that as well. And I have started a new painting. I'm getting the gesso on, and I'm going to be bringing that into painting chat probably next week. I'll still be working on this, but I think it's time to bring a new one in, because this is like the 5th time we've been doing this one. So hopefully bringing that in next week, and that's going to be some totally different techniques. So could be interesting. Scrape along here. Yeah, that's good. Maybe scrape up here a bit. Try and bring out some of the colours that are below the black that I put on. Okay, good. And I think I'll just do one more thing, and then we'll call it for this week, and I'll be back next week. And I think the thing I'm going to do is add some green gold, if I can find it. Green gold. I'm going to add it to the white down here, and then I'm going to try and get some highlights up here. That's quite a lot of green gold, but not to worry, eh? Put my brush to one side, I'll wash that in a minute. As you can see, chaotic is how it goes. Don't really want to mix blue into it. Let's just smear it out, and then see if we can pull some of the white in and get some different degrees of green. So we've got different patches there. Right, let's clean that off. Start with something a bit darker. Get that in. That's it. Just blend that in. Try to get a feel of flow this way on this painting, so that's why I'm pushing this way off to the right. I almost want you to imagine like the whole thing just runs off. Right, where else going a bit here? There we go. A bit here maybe, it's a bit too much. Let's bring that up and back towards the back. So we're going the other way there. That's not bad though. Do you like that? I'm a master of contradicting myself. If I say I do one thing and then I literally do the opposite thing next. And a bit there. Okay, so that's looking quite nice. Let's get something closer to total highlight and then just put that in. That's probably too close to total highlight. That's okay though. I do like that. Let's use some of this down here as well. And I'll use a sort of more dabby technique with the finger just to create a more like, almost like shrubs maybe. Very faint, but just like the potential hint. Okay, good. And if I use the darker bits, then maybe I can just put a little bit of the white stuff over as well. I do want to be careful not to just destroy what I've done. Which has happened many, many times. Okay. That one's a bit too blobby. Where's my blade? Put my lid back on my yellow paint while I'm here. Get my blade and just bring this and create an edge there, like that. That's quite nice. That's put a sort of edge to it. That's decent. And then keep working down here. So if you know any cool art books I should read next about artists, I want to read about Gustav Klimt, but I can't find like a book about him, like a biography or anything. But I might look into that. But yeah, if you know anything I should check out, let me know and I'll read it. Okay, so that's looking quite nice. It might be tempting to put a bit of the green gold pure on as well, just to get some real darkness in there. And I am starting to like this painting now. I definitely had a point where I didn't think it was going to be a painting. It was going to go in the bin. But I think this one's going to get finished. So, yeah, that's exciting as well. I don't know when it's going to be finished, but I'm thinking it's relatively close now. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I'm going to go now. Have a good week, everyone. I'll see you next week. Paint and Chat, Dead Art Studios. Take it easy. See you later.